Welcome everyone. This is my first video. A little bit about me. My name is Chris. I've made dozens of Star Trek costumes over the last 10 years or so. Many of them are of the rare variety. I don't usually make a very common costume that you can buy in the store or a Chinese supplier or however else you want to get one of those basic uniforms. Occasionally I will, but in this video, for those who are familiar with Star Trek The Next Generation, a very popular Season 3 episode, Yesterday's Enterprise, which showcases a variant or slight variation of the original outfit with minor detail changes to visually show a different divergent timeline. I will be making that one in the form of a jumpsuit. It's going to have the closed off collar. There'll be some sleeve details. There's a very unique silver belt that goes with that. And those are the main changes there. Big fan of that episode. And I generally have never seen too many people either make it or even pictures online. It's just not a common jumpsuit that I've seen or variation of that outfit. Thanks to Taylor's Gone Wild for reverse engineering a screen used one and making a very true to form pattern for that. Without that, it would have been very difficult to get this one to look as good as it does. So thank you for that one. And with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so these are the supplies I'm going to be using for this particular project. Here we have the fabric, which is jumbo spandex. We have a black, and we have a maroon berry, which is quite close to the screen-used jumpsuits. I have a costume card that I match to it. It's a little bit lighter, but this is going to work just fine. I'm going to be making a full jumpsuit, back zipping. So we have a invisible zipper here. Also, there's a piping that goes around the collar and also around the sleeve detail on the Yesterday's Enterprise jumpsuit. This has been custom dyed to match this very closely, as well as the pattern I'll be using is from Taylor's Gone Wild here. As you can see, the color is quite close to the costume card I have here. It's a little bit darker, but I'm not sure if the camera picks that up or not, but it does look pretty good. There's the piping next to it. Piping's closer to the costume card. But so here I'm working on the collar. Here's the pattern piece. There's going to be 3 pieces you're going to need. This is the main layer, the jumbo spandex. This is the lining piece. And this is the fusible interfacing, which prevents this from stretching. Here I am pinning in the collar piping. First I used clips, and then I went behind it with pins to make sure it's nicely secured and it's not going to move anywhere. Using a piping foot, just going along the edge there, getting as close as you can to the edge of the piping itself. Here's the completed collar. It's got the round closed up center here, and there is a seam that is there, but you don't usually see it on the show, but it's there, trust me. Back here, the lining ready to go. Here I am prepping the center front to join with the center front pants at the asymmetrical point. I like to prep by measuring the seam allowance with chalk, even though the machine gives you that guideline with all the movement and everything pushed together. I like to ensure I'm aware of where my needle is and where it needs to be and where I need to pivot on that point. It just gives me a nice peace of mind to know that I'm not going to get turned around or sew in the wrong direction, because there's a lot of other mistakes that can happen outside of missing your mark on your seam. So I try to mitigate those as much as possible. All right, moment of truth. Final stitches on this piece. The automatic cutter. It's been a very helpful thing for me. Alrighty. Alright, so as you can see, the seams I got pretty good. I'm pretty good with that. Yep, those are good. And then here's the point. Let's see, any bunching. Let me go press this and finish off whatever I need to, and we shall see how it looks in a minute. So I sewed the point. Unfortunately, I didn't like it. I tried to make it look better. I am not pleased with that, so I will be undoing and redoing. So I've undone the entire piece, remarked it. I didn't do the entire, didn't do this piece because it's unnecessary. So I went about, I'm going to try this again. Here I am prepping the center front for the second time during this build. This is one of the seams that sometimes can take an hour, sometimes it could take many hours, depending on how many times I have to do, undo, and then redo it. Decent state. Show you. See this here, it's not so bad. Unfortunately, I put a piece of fabric over here to try to get the seam pressed a little better to prevent what happened here. If you can see the glossiness. So I melted a bit of this with the iron, which means I need to recut this piece. Probably these two as well, might as well. For the front chest piece, which normally come off, which keep it in the lines. Just about as close as I can get without cutting the paper. Tunnel pattern, rather than do it. Tap it down, and got it. Got the point there. So right, this is how it'll look when it's being worn. All right, so this is where we're at currently. We're working on the front of the jumpsuit. This is where we're at so far. We got that collar. Next up, we're gonna need to install the sleeves and then following the yoke. Just a quick glimpse at how I attach the sleeves with the 2 stitches, the top stitch that's going on now, and then you stop readjust and then pin the other side, and then I spin it around, and then now I'm sewing the other side to meet up with that original stitch, which then. So finish the sleeve, or the first half of the sleeve, and this is the V-point you're looking for, with the 2 stitches that meet at that point. This is going to be the armpit. It's going to have a lot of pulling and stretching, so you're going to want to reinforce that sleeve. This is what the back looks like. And that these seams are going to line up as I want them to. A test seam allowance, it's about 1/2 inch. So what I'll do is I'll clip it right at the end there, and then I'll flip it over and see where it lines up, if one piece needs to come down slightly or not. In this case, I need to move the sleeve down about 1/4 inch. So I'll just take that, move that down a bit, put it back. Just a little bit more. Just finishing up the other sleeve. Same process, just reversed. Not the most complicated part of this build, but still not just a simple curved stitch. So, all right, sleeves are in. I cannot emphasize enough that pressing your seams just gives you a crisper and more professional look, and that's the kind of look I'm going for. You could always skip it. Wouldn't recommend it, but we're back from pressing. This is where we're at. We got this. Looking pretty great. So here I'm joining the front and back pieces of the jumpsuit. This is where all the pieces technically become one. Coming around the shoulder, down the arm. And this is where this stitch right here is the one that gives you that V cut on the shoulder. So it's crucial to line that up before you start stitching. You could either baste it with stitching, or I use the clips to do that. This is where the point needed to be perfect for me anyway. I think I achieved that goal. Here I am attaching the collar to the neckline of the jumpsuit. Initially I use the clips, then I go behind that with the pins again to make sure that everything is not going to move when I start sewing. Time to install the collar. The centers, and then I worked to each side so that you know the center's good. You don't want to start from one side and then you get to the other side and you're off, and then your center's off as well. So it's actually, you have a bit of a leeway on the edges. If you're a little off, that's fine, but as long as that center point is good. On the sleeve, or the collar. So I have a ton of clips and pins just to keep everything. This is one of those scenarios where I am unsure of how this is turning out. I'll only know. Alright, so now we're going to take a look and see how we did. Alright, so start over here. That looks good. Looks like it's alright. Good. Alright, I'm gonna test this out and press it and make sure everything is good, and we can move on. Up here, get a better look. So there's the collar. shoulder seam came out all right. Both sides. Clipped in place, and the invisible zipper is going to go here. Yeah. So far, so good. So for me, I do a slight modification to the zipper. It's more to make it easier for me to get in and out by myself, since it is a back zipping zipper and I don't have the dexterity to reach behind my back. Here's what I'm going to do. So I am going to drill a very tiny hole in this zipper pull, since there's no natural hole there. I use this this punch to make sure that the drill bit doesn't wander. And then once that hole is drilled, I'm gonna, this little, it's like a mini keyring type of thing, and I'm gonna feed it through, and then basically it'll have a loop on the end of this, and I'll use a lanyard to attach to the back of it so I can pull up and down with ease. So I flattened out the zipper pull because it was very rounded. I also punched a hole, with this little hole punch. Hopefully that'll do it. Keep it in its hole. This was a 1/16 drill bit, and I drilled a nice tiny little hole. I'm not sure if you can see that in the zipper pull. And then I have this little, essentially a very miniaturized key ring. Just gonna feed that through. So, and this is only sewed about a quarter. It's not as much adhesive. I think it's pinned where I want it to be. You know, some people like to just put it down. And like I said, last time I did this, I had it twisted so I couldn't even check. So I had to undo it before I could even check to see how close I was. This one I was made sure it was a good spot, angle at it. Alright, so here is the zipper. I'm gonna have to go flip it around like this, and then zipper pull. It's zipping. Alright, and we're, as you can see, we're already off by, let's say, a good 3/8 of an inch on the bottom. Let's keep going. The top is pretty much on point. So this is sometimes what happens. So I figured it's worth explaining what I'm going to do to try to address the mismatching sideways seam. If you look at the inside as it's zipped up, this line needs to be completely even. So what I did is I marked a continuation to that zipper pull. So what I need to do is when I undo this side, I'm going to remove it and then pull it down, hopefully the reason why it's not lining up is there's too much slack here. And I'm just going to stretch it out till that line matches with that line. And then I'm going to pin it in and then resew it. So I undid a section of the invisible zipper up until from the beginning all the way to this point. I lined it up where I chalked it so that that line, in theory, will match up with the corresponding zipper. Repinned everything. It seemed like it was just a little bit bunched up, so it didn't have to really stretch the fabric. I just kind of leveled it out. So we're gonna go do one pass with this. In theory, these two lines are gonna line exactly up. Look at that. Just like that. View of the top. That was a pretty easy adjustment. Like I said, it could be, you get the first try, you could have an easy adjustment like this, and then you're good to go. And then up here, is good too. Moving on to the collar again, we're going to finish off the construction of the collar by pinning in the bottom of the lining, and then we're going to hand stitch along the edge and along the entire length of the bottom, making sure that the collar lining is securely fastened. I'm not particularly a fan of hand sewing, but in certain instances it is a necessary evil, but it pays off in the end, having a nice comfortable collar around your neck. Alright, just a bit of an update. I have sewn all the seams, the side, left and right, the crotch seam, so any major seam that, but it is on here. This is the uniform, and it looks good, and it's really squeezing on the neck. I mean, I did wrap the collar around my neck when I first made it, and I did notice it was pretty, there's not a lot of room for error there. But here's the invisible zipper with the lanyard loop that I added. So this is going to come down like this. That's the back zip. Just to give you an idea of what I do and you don't want to pull this on an angle. So I'll put it on and I'll hook the lanyard to that loop that I made, and then I'll just basically pull off as straight as I could, and then once it gets to the top, disconnect, and then flip that in there, put my hook and eye, better look from behind, looks the part, everything's good. Alright, so here's what we're working with. We have one pattern piece. It definitely looks like these are not identically symmetrical. I need to switch to my... I don't think this is going so well. Yeah. So I finished the other side. Definitely got the hang of it a little bit more the second time around. They both look good. I think from this point, I need to sew them together, right sides together, to make essentially a fake sleeve cuff. All right, put on the sleeve detail. As you can see, I've used the mannequin arm to stabilize the existing sleeve here. And sewing it, I did around the hem there, on the inside, and on the outside, I'm using the division color to go between the piping and the black. So here it is, the full, completed Yesterday's Enterprise ensemble, complete with closed collar, wrist details and alternate timeline belt. That being said, fully completed. I did not make the belt, however. I did do all the attachments. The mannequin is very close approximation to my size. Obviously a little bit taller than me. But next thing to do is to put it on myself and see how it turns out. And yesterday's Enterprise, 100% completed. This is my first video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, subscribe, comment below if you have any suggestions, or what did you most like about this build, or if there's anything you want me to build in the future, or any things that I've built in the past that you want me to go over. Thanks again for watching. My name is Chris, and this is Prime Directive Design.